Percy puffed into the shed. He was still exhausted from that day. "I still can't believe what happened to us today," gasped Percy. "I agree," sympathized Thomas. "The past few days' events have been rather large." "I still can't believe the amount of washouts," said James. "Yes, there was one just after the bridge in the Letter Western, and one near Wellsworth on Edward's line," said Thomas. "And don't forget about the landslide making Henry's tunnel unsafe," said James. "I remember when it started," said Percy. "I remember coming out of the sheds, and everything was destroyed. Trees were on the lines, rails were warped. My line was so bumpy. But we were still able to get out of the sheds that morning. But unfortunately, the rest of the area wasn't so lucky. Most of the areas were washed out, including the road next to the rail. I remember pieces of road being washed up next to the rail line. But then we were called to Tidmouth eventually," said Thomas. "And Daisy had to manage with my passengers as well as her own. And Toby with my trucks," added Percy. "And then when we got back here," said Thomas, "you told us about what happened on the main line, and it all became clear why we were called here." "Why was that?" said Percy. "Oh yes," said Thomas. "You were already out pulling trucks, weren't you? James, do you mind telling Percy the fateful events that happened?" "No problem at all, Thomas." It was getting late, and the rails were wet. I was helping Gordon double-head the express, seeing as how it could only run so fast with the wetness of the rails. The ditches were filled with water, and trees lined their banks after they had fallen off the hill. But as our last coach entered Henry's tunnel, then I noticed further in the tunnel there was a large amount of water cascading down. I ran straight into the water. Something hit me on my dome, and then another on the coupling. I rocketed forward. My dome felt funny, and I couldn't feel the weight of the train. I asked my driver to slow down, but he couldn't. He had no control. When I looked up, my dome was completely gone, so that meant I had no control over myself. I rocketed on. My driver and fireman jumped off. Then I noticed that the train decoupled, and Gordon was left stuck in the tunnel. I ran on as fast as I've ever gone, all the way down the line until I made it here. The turntable at Tidmouth was under construction. I was rocketing down the line, unaware of this. I got turned around by another rocketing me later on during another landslide, and I was actually turning around. I hit the side of the turntable. It was set loose because it was under construction. Workmen jump cleared that was working on the turntable. By then, my fire had gone out and I had no more steam left. But because of where the workmen landed, the turntable started spinning again. This caused my fire to be turned, and with my last breath, I slowly creeped into the sheds. Percy had caught his breath by the end of the story, and so that's why we were called to the main line, because none of the other engines were available. "Yes," said Thomas. "And don't forget, after we reach Henry's tunnel, the goods and passengers are shuttled by bus and lorry to meet the other engines on the other side that take it to the end of the line." "Right," said Percy. "What was that?" asked Percy. "Sounds like a whistle to me," said James. "I know it was a whistle," said Percy, "but it sounded like—" Three engines looked over, and there in front of them, pulling in, was Henry, Bear, and Gordon. "Hello," they said as they pulled in. Then Sir Topham Hatt jumped out of Henry's cab and walked over to where the engine. "Thank you, Thomas and Percy, for your work on the main line here. But now you can return to your branch line. I have fixed the tunnel. Now I can start work on repairing the yards here." "Thank you," said Percy and Thomas. "And James, you can get sent to the works and have your dome refitted." "Oh, thank you, sir. It would be nice to get my splendid golden dome back." James hadn't noticed, but looking to his left, the yards were actually in complete disarray, with a river cutting through the middle, causing lines to be washed away from the sheds. In the next 2 weeks, James got his golden dome back, and the lines leading out of the sheds were repaired, including the yard, and life returned to normal on the Northwestern Railway.